45 minutes of qualifying for the endurance race of the month, Monza. 4 classes of totally different cars competing for their own championships over the course of 1.5 hours at the famous Italian Autodrome. So, if this is your first time watching the Endurance Series, the monthly Endurance Series held by PetrolHead SimRacing and Inspired Yorkshire, it's basically a four-class endurance battle for 4 different championships, 4 different race stories to keep track of over 1.5 hours. And we've got 45 minutes to watch them qualify and have the relative pace mark, how quick they can be. It is to my understanding that the stream has started after free practice. There were a few free practice times to go off of. In P1, overall, Ethan Mottram set the fastest lap time. He's managed a 1 minute 35.89 on the soft compound. Statistically, the other P1 in the class, and the Mistral, was a whole 3 seconds off. Something I can tell that the pace will come out. Or it has to come out for Fotis if he doesn't want us to be utterly one-sided. So in LMP2, Andy Darnell was fastest out of the bunch, with the other cars either being slower than most of the GTR3s or, well, not competing, because you don't have to set a practice time, but you do have to qualify though. Then, in GT3, a little bit of a trend here. David Koulas always setting the fastest first laps of GTR3, but if this trend continues, we also know that he's going to fall off in performance. He always has some kind of accident. His benchmark time for GTR3 is 1 minute 48.7, and Dirk Pfeiffer is, well, not too, it's around 7/10 off in the Bentley. But we'll see firsthand now what kind of lap times these guys can do tonight in Monza. Also, another bit of a disclaimer to mention for the viewers, the prototypes in particular, because of the double fuel and double tyre wear. This is going to be the only session that is going to be sensible to make use of the soft compound. In the race, we're going to have to either use mediums or hard tyres there, because the softs degrade way too quickly. .40 minutes and a half on the clock, and people are beginning their first hot laps of the day. We already have 4 times on the board. Timo Reiter has rejoined, and he has managed a 1 minute 41.5 benchmark time for P1. P2, Danny Darnell has managed to set a 1 minute 43. And Lefter's intent for GTE has set a 1 minute 48.1. Statistically, has put in his 2 cents now in his first out lap. He secures a 1 minute 41.2, 3/10 faster than Timo Reiter. We'll see what kind of answer that Ethan Mottram has to this. Because if in free practice, Ethan was very rapid indeed. And according to the Discord, I'm after Arthur Grau, one of the GT3 M6, as after black screening. So he's going to have to rejoin. That's going to slow him down a little bit. And Ethan Mottram has dropped his bomb almost immediately. 1 minute 37.6. 3.5 seconds faster than Photosysoglu. So Photosysoglu is on his way to try and improve his lap time. He has done so by 1.5 seconds. He's now 1.5 off of Ethan Mottram. He's improving very quickly. Lefteris and Tan on the GTE side of things is on a personal best. So far he's set a personal best lap time of 1 minute 48.0. But it seems like he can go even faster. In practice he was outrunning LMP2 machines. So Lefteris is practically in a one-on-one battle with Mike Hockert at the minute for the race win. We have 11 times on the board and 20 drivers. Ethan Mottram has set the fastest time overall, 1 minute 37.6. Photosysoglu is on purple first sector and green second sector. He's going in the right direction, but it's not going to be enough to set pole. We'll see what he'll be able to pull. Timo Reuter is very... Sorry, I shouldn't have blurted out like that. Timo's in third position at a P1. And that is actually at the back of the P1 field. There's only 3 LMP1 machines driving in today's race. I was supposed to be there to make it 4, but I've injured my foot, so unfortunately I couldn't be driving. Photosysoglu has managed to close the gap down to around 6/10. Meanwhile, Andy Darnell in LMP2 has managed to set his benchmark of his class. He's managed a 1 minute 43.4. Kiri Kotachville is 1/10 behind him in terms of lap time. And in LMP2, in class, Andy Foster is P3 with a 1 minute 49.4, and under a 10th, they're separated by half a hundredth basically. Andy Foster sets almost an identical time to Drew Stas for the battle for P3. Meanwhile, in GTE, Mike Hockert has set a benchmark time for his class at 1 minute 47.3. So far, after Santan is being left in the dust, he's set a 148.0. He's 7/10 off the pace in his class. And of course, you can't forget the GT3 class, the most popular by far. Dirk Pfeiffer is in first position in the Bentley, followed by his compatriot 2/10 off. In another Bentley, Mike Bartman. A pair of German drivers in first and second for GT3. JC Camagno in the Ferrari in P3 at the minute for GT3. And then there's Rhino Berger in a BMW in P4, Dave Ziska 5th, and the rest of them have not set a lap time yet, apart from David Koulas, who's beginning to start out on his out laps and start to output a few respectable lap times of his own. He's usually near the front of him. "34 minutes to go. And that's your top 14. Things are very subject to change. People can get faster. People are only getting started, really. People are still in the process of getting into the zone. Once you get into that zone, you'll be able to set your best lap times, so it's important to get into a rhythm. Left racing time is 2 seconds off overall, but he's on a green first sector for himself there. It's a personal best. Can he carry some speed into the second sector? He appears to be setting a personal best lap time here. He might be able to get closer to Mike Hockert. I didn't catch that. He overtook Mike Hockert in the timing boards by almost half a tenth. Very good. He's going to be setting he's going to get a little bit faster than Mike Hockert now. Get that gap a little bit better in case Mike Hockert improves. Meanwhile, Dave Ziska has set a proper lap time representing himself in P3, ahead of the Ferrari of Cabagno in P11 overall. Rhino Berger remains P12 overall, and Rayo Racing in P13 has yet to set a respectable lap time at the back of the grid. Rayo Racing has improved massively now. He has set a lap time good enough for P2. P3 actually, so he's overtaken Dave Ziska. And Arthur Grau overtakes Mike Bartman for P2 of the GTR3 class in his BMW M6. More and more people are starting to put their 2 cents on the table, and we're starting to see a very large grid form. 20 drivers and 15 times so far, in 4 different classes. Granted, some of the classes are very small tonight, but it is what it is. Mike Hockert is starting to build up some speed into the second sector on a personal best lap time. Barely 3/10 separate him and Lecter Santan in qualifying. Let's see if we can close that gap down a little bit more in the latter half of the lap. And he overtakes him in the standings. He set a brand new benchmark. It's a 1 minute 45.89. While Lecter Santan is set a 1 minute 47.0. So that is around 2/10, over a second actually. No. Over a second faster, that I think. I may be stupid. Mathematics never been my strong suit, but I try my best. We see the late arrival of Antonio Costa. And he is driving an LMP1 machine, funny enough. We'll be seeing him replace... actually, where's Timo Reiter gone? He hasn't set a lap time yet. It's 28 minutes to go. Antonio Costa in the LMP1 machine. Might be a battle here for P3. Perhaps for other podium positions. We haven't seen Antonio Costa. We haven't seen him drive very much in that P1 machine. He's only joined very recently out of GT3. Statistically remains around 6/10 off the pace from Ethan Mottram. He set that bomb of a lap time very early into the race. But it's only a question now if he's going to be able to replicate that on a lap by lap basis on medium or hard tyres, depending on what kind of strategy he plans to run. There are many pit stops to be made on double fuel and double tyre wear, jockeying for position for his class. And that goes for everyone else as well. Thierry Crotachville has managed to overtake Andy Darnell in the timing sheets. She sets a brand new benchmark of 1 minute 42.5. A vast improvement of Andy Darnell's 1 minute 43.4. It's around a second faster. Ethan is clearly the most rapid driver here today in terms of qualifying pace, but whether he can keep it on the grey stuff for 1.5 hours is yet a question I'm still very uncertain about. I hope he's done some practice on the medium compound because it drives very different than the soft. So for those that are new here, we do a special kind of start for these kind of races. In the monthly endurance, we do a special kind of rolling start behind the safety car. So the safety car driver is Super GT champion of PetrolHead SimRacing, mind you, not the actual Super GT champion from Japan. But you get the idea of a previous championship winner. Christian Kibovic will be driving the safety car, leading the LMP1 grid. I say that's a very generous word for it, it's virtually 4 cars, but whatever. They lead the LMP1s, and there's going to be around a few seconds between them and the LMP2 field. They're going to be crawling at pit speed, essentially, until the leaders of P1, until the leaders of their class, cross the finish line. Then the race starts for them. It's a rolling start. It's going to be one formation lap. It's going to be single file, so there shouldn't be that much room for carnage, but it has happened before. So I expect drivers to be on their toes constantly. You need to be honest since the start, or else things will go very wrong for you. If you'd like to have a little bit more of an insight of a few crucial moments and highlights, Christian Kubovic is I'm taking a few photographs at the side of the track, and he's putting it into a specific channel in Discord. So he's taking view of the highlights so far. So if you'd like to, if you're a driver, maybe you'd like to take a break for 24 minutes to go, have a look, and have a small recap of what has happened so far. And if you're viewing on stream and not driving, then you may want to have a look into joining our racing Discord. You'll get all the information regarding future races and race dates, and even maybe even to join us out there on track. We always welcome new drivers. We're a very friendly community, so don't be shy. So 20 times on the leaderboard out of 21 drivers. It's that time we have a recap. So Ethan Martram still sits at the top of the leaderboard with a 1 minute 37.6. He dropped that very early into qualifying. In second place is Fortis Isaglu. He's around 6/10 off the pace. Antonio Costa, a newcomer into the LMP3 class, is just arrived very recently and overtook Timo Reiter. 2.5 seconds off of Ethan Mottram at the minute, but there's room for improvement, and of course there's room for racing as well. Because of course, if there's anything I've noticed watching these LMP1 cars is that the Audi is very fuel hungry compared to the Mistral, and the Mistrals can stay out a lot longer than the Audis. In fact, it's for that reason why 3 of the 4 LMP1 machines are actually Mistrals. Ethan Mottram is the exception. Timo Reiter has overtaken Antonio Costa for 3rd position on the grid, 2nd row. Well, that would have been 2nd row in a traditional grid start, but he starts P3 single file for the rolling start. Antonio Costa slides back to P4. Meanwhile, in LMP2, Hira Kotochville has set a benchmark around my apologies. She set a benchmark for LMP2 of 1 minute 42.5, and Andy Darnell. Both of these drivers are on DPIs, by the way, Chevy DPIs, old school. He is a second off, almost precisely a second off in terms of qualifying pace. Then, in terms of LMP2, Andy Foster is in 3rd place at the minute. Unfortunately, we lost to Erastas. I have no idea how long he's been gone for, but that's another LMP2 machine off the grid. So next up, GTE. Mike Hockert and Leftera Santan have been jockeying for position. For the what's the word? They've been jockeying for their pole position for their class, and it seems that Mike Hockert has been getting the better of him so far. And Leftera Santan is 1.5 seconds off the pace, if my math is correct. Probably not, but whatever. Then in GTR3, those are the only two GTEs in the class at the minute. Unfortunately, the Henrik Andreasen has not turned up yet. Hope to see him here for a three-way battle for the lead here in GTE tonight. Still plenty of time to go. We've got 19 and a half minutes to go on the clock of qualifying. Antonio Costa is on a personal best flying lap. He's looking to dethrone Timo Reiter from P3. Will he pull it off? He does. He sets a relatively faster lap. He said he's breaking into the 1 minute 39s now. 1 minute 39.1. He's on the brink of the 38. And Ethan Mottram has improved to 1 minute 36.5. It's good enough for pole for Ethan Mottram. I don't know why I paused, because there's another class to go over, GTR3. So, in terms of that, David Koulas in the AMG GT3 has set a benchmark of 1 minute 48.49. That's the fastest GT3 at the minute, and the second fastest is 1 minute 48.7. Arthur Graw in an M6. Dirk Pfeiffer is in P3 at the minute in the Bentley. 1 minute 49.18. And then Mike Bartman, his teammate I believe, is trailing 1/10 behind him in another Bentley. And that is your that's your basic standings for now. So 17 minutes to go, more or less. People are starting to hit a small bit of a wall in terms of lap time. We're starting to see the true potential come out of these drivers as time goes on, but it's going to be a massive question whether these times will be able to be sustained for an hour and a half straight. Qualifying is only where you start. It can help you win a race, but it isn't over if you don't get pole. Never is. Anything can happen in these races. You can have equipment fail, drivers melt down. All sorts of manners of things can happen. You can get a penalty after the race if you're not particularly good at following the rules. There is a code of conduct that we must follow in these league races in order to keep it professional. It is as a result we aim to provide clean racing. And clean racing is entertaining racing. I mean, that's objective. Some of you guys watch the races for the crashes, but I'm in it for the noise personally. But some people who enjoy watching the cars crash, but that isn't always the best, always the coolest thing for people taking part. We aim to keep it clean and competitive. "15 minutes left to go in qualifying. After us in 10 is almost a second and a half off of Mike Hockert. And a spin like that for quite a while now. It seems like he doesn't have an answer to Mike Hockert's lap time. He might be starting in P2 in his class. After all, a valiant effort from Lefteris in time from the Greek. Things aren't over then, because it's going to be a race to the line. A one-on-one duel for GTE tonight. Mike Hockert versus Lefteris in time. Germany versus Greece. In equal machinery. David Koulas remains the fastest GTR3 on the grid so far in terms of qualifying lap time, but if you've been around watching these races for a while now, you'd be recognising that there's a little bit of a trend with Koulas actually. Like, he seems to be very fast towards the start, but then he always has some kind of accident where he starts to drop off massively towards the end. He's always a lightning starter, but towards the end he starts to fade away. So that means that Arthur Grog, Dirk Pfeiffer, Mike Bartman, those kind of drivers will be able to clean up the scraps if anyone up front make any mistakes. It's important to keep the car in the black stuff. And Christian Kubovic, the safety car driver, previous league champion, is still taking he's taking photos of highlights during the session, so if you'd like to check them out or take a break from qualifying while you can have a little look at what's going on behind the scenes. But stuff I actually don't know about is happening here. Andy seems to be 9/10ths off the pace compared to Heary. He doesn't seem to have an answer to such a lap time, but there's always the race and slipstream to help him get by. He actually told me that he didn't have that much practice before now, precisely 2 laps under his name. But we see that wasn't good. That was good enough to get him P2 so far. So let's see how this works out for him in the race, if he's able to premeditate some kind of strategy last minute to help him undercut Yuri Kotochville. People all around the racetrack are making mistakes so far. They have to be ironed out before we get to the race, so the race will cost them big time. Being fast is one thing, but being reliable and consistent is another. That's the latter is what wins your races right there. Pace certainly helps, but isn't worth anything if you can't keep it on the black stuff all the time. And if at any point there's a dodgy corner that you don't really get, it's always faster to take that corner just a little bit slower than to push way too hard and spin. It's a lot faster to keep on the black stuff at all, rather than to spin. There's no point in gambling when you'll lose it all. Christian Kubovic is doing a very good job. And that's Kulas around again. I haven't been commenting on his spins very much, but he's been making a lot of mistakes very recently. Starting to creep in for the AMG. Anthony Ferrante in the number 40 AMG. We haven't talked about him too much just yet. He is the 21st out of 21st driver who has not set a lap time just yet. Let's see if he'll be able to grab the bag in his AMG. Pace right now is David Kulas is running at 48.4 bomb of a lap time. Arthur Grau has only managed to get within 3/10 of that time, and Dirk Pfeiffer can't break it to the 48. So you've said this was a 49, 1 minute 49.18. So let's see what Ferrante can pull off if he's going to be in the midfield or potentially going after a podium here. If we could see a late blossom from the Italian. Ethan Mottram is getting a bit of practice in on the mediums. He's after saying that he was within 2/10 of his PB on those mediums, so we'll see how that works out for him in the race, but it seems good for Ethan. Vic Vega was about to set a personal best, but he keeps it. He lost too much time throughout the last corner, and he will now be remaining in P14 overall, behind Mike Bartman for P5, I believe, in class. Andy Darnell still hasn't had an answer to Hiri Kotochva's pole lap of his class. Fotis Isoglu has just managed to pull off a 6/10 for PB of Sector 1, and it's purple. He's had a bit of a eureka moment going into the second sector. What does he pull off? He is just under 1/10 of the lap time that Ethan Mottram's got. He looks like he's going to be after pole, potentially. What can Fotis do for 5 minutes left to go in this session in his Mistral? His Mistral in soft, rounding the final corner. It's a good line, he's getting a little bit of slipstream from that GT3. Can we put an answer to Ethan Mottram's lap time? Just loses a little bit too much, but he was onto something great. He's going to try again, without a doubt. He doesn't bother, there's only one position. Goes back to pits immediately, but that was a flash of brilliance from the Greek. Ethan better not get too comfortable now, he's got a little bit of a... Statistically starting to have a bit of a eureka moment. He's improving in pace the last minute. Big question is whether Fotis is going to be able to do that on mediums, because he was on the soft compound. See how people get on. Got 5 minutes left to go. Anthony Ferrante has set his lap time, but he's way off the pace. It's good enough for the garbage at the back of the grid. P21 overall. He still has a little bit of time left to get a last minute pole attempt here. He's got 4 minutes left to go. These are going to be some of the last hot laps of the day for qualifying before we get into the race. So I should clarify about LMP2. I've been mentioning here at Cottageville and Andy Darnell driving old spec DPIs, but in race room that's classified as an LMP2. Has the trade-off of has a big trade-off though. It has a significantly higher straight line speed off that V8 from Chevrolet, but it suffers in the corners. It's the perfect kind of car to have for Monza. That would explain the difference in lap time between the different makes of LMP2. Although a skill issue might be a big part of it actually. Seconds off, it shouldn't be like that actually. We've all seen late blossoms late in the race before. We shouldn't be surprised if something big happens and we see a total shake-up in the grid order. 2.5 minutes to go, we won't have to wait long now. One minute and 40 seconds to go. This will be people's final lap before the end of qualifying. GT3s won't have time to make it to the finish. When people already in a lap must finish their lap, and that will be it for them. If you start a new lap now, you won't have time to finish it. It was only Arthur Grau in his M6 and Anthony Ferrante in P21 overall, desperately trying to improve his back at the back marker position. As Grau realizes Arthur Grau realizes they won't have time to finish the lap, but Anthony Ferrante might have a look into a small improvement at best. We'll see what he'll be able to pull off though. 30 seconds to go, he'll make it to the line, but with barely any time left. It's going to be the last lap. Very quickly. Can Anthony Ferrante pull it off? No, he can't. He pulls off into the pits, he gives up on the last corner. So here we are then, Ethan Mottram on pole position with a 1 minute 36.5. Francis Ziziglu is in P2, in the Mistral with 1:37.5, 1 second off the pace. Antonio Costa, 1:39 in P3. Timo Reiter is now in P4, second off of Costa. Here at Cottageville is in the LMP2, is in the leader for class. Andy Darnell is P2 and P2, and Mike Hockhurst is getting the best of the GTE field. David Koulas has obtained a pole for GTR3, and it's Arthur Gra who managed to get the runner-up. It'll be a decent battle between them. Or if either of them make the mistake, Dirk Pfeiffer and Mike Bartman, the Bentley pair, will pick up the scraps. 5 minutes warm-up now. And we'll start to see people start to fine-tune their strategies. It'll be important to get their presets set up in the pit menu. Get a pit bind if you don't have it already. It's essential. While there are no mandatory pit stops in this race, it is absolutely essential. It's impossible without making a stop, at least 2 stops for fuel. So you do that anyway, so we'll see a range of strategies across the prototypes now. In P1, we'll be seeing, I guess we'll be seeing the likes of Ethan Mottram on either of the hards. Last time I heard from him, he was planning to use the hard compound. Statistically, I haven't heard from him. I haven't heard from Timo or Antonio Costa. Ethan Mottram had his last win revoked from a start infringement, so he's hoping to make up for it today. I'll do it for real this time. The best battle will most likely be in the GT3 field between Koulas and Arthur Gra, or even Pfeiffer if he can catch up in this Bentley. It's most likely inevitable because Koulas always makes mistakes towards the end. So we'll see the gap break down if he is faster at the start of the race. I'd like to remind you to like and subscribe to PetrolHead SimRacing to never miss an upload or never miss a stream. Join the Discord so you know when the next race is going to be taking part, or if you want to race with us. All you have to do is buy the content in a race room, and bam, you're streamed just like that. So that's all I'd like to say, really. An hour and a half is going to be quite a long time for a sim race, and I'll give you a fair bit of notice after around half race distance. The racing usually stagnates, and we usually start seeing trains form. At which point I wouldn't blame you if you took out your phone and started playing Clash of Clans or something. Ethan Mottram is practicing his Timo Reiter impression. "60 seconds left," and it was 75 or 60, whatever. But don't get me on the details, man. Don't shoot the messenger. Ethan goes sky high across halfway into the first sector after the second chicane. He's getting the crashes out of his system before he does it in the race, so he won't lose as much time. But that was a big surprise. It was a race bloomer, but a welcome one from Antonio Costa. Third place is no longer a given for Timo Reiter. They'll both have to race for it now. Unfortunately, it's just me, Michael Chuse, here again today. I have no idea when David Jankowski is going to be back commentating with me, but for me, for now, it's just you and me, I suppose. So, our special safety car procedure will begin very shortly. As soon as Christian Kibovic goes on the grid, people will begin their formation lap and start gapping the other classes in anticipation for the racing start. Christian Kibovic, previous series champion, is driving the safety car, and he's doing an excellent job for photographing the highlights of this endurance race. You won't be able to, depending on how long the pit stops take, you might be able to, if you're driving, you might be able to take a look, because Christian's been taking a few pictures of highlights I've been missing, actually. I don't know how that happens, but you know. So anyway, here's the safety car. People are starting to get up to speed. GTR3 and GTE, LMP2 and LMP1 are starting to get up to speed. They're all going into single file now. Mike Hockert and Lefter Santan, the GTE Porsche 1v1. So that'll be one to relatively easy to watch over. Although I'm afraid that it might stagnate after a bit, after one overtakes the other. We've got Kulas and Arthur Gras. They'll be the two best GT3 drivers here. It'll be interesting to see how they get on with each other, and whether or not that they mess up, so that the Bentleys of Mike Bartman and Dirk Pfeiffer will capitalise on any mistakes today. The underdogs in the Bentley. Then Vic Vega is in a solid midfield position. It'll be a shame if he loses anything. So going down the front stretch, double file the minutes is about to go into single file for the prototypes. They're going down the front stretch, and it's go, go, go. 1 minute, 17 minutes, 1 hour, 17 minutes and a half to go. We've got Hirschling down to turn 1. LMP1, Ethan Mottram has gotten a great start. He's ahead of Fotis Issiglu. The bumper to bumper at the minute, Antonio Costa wants in on the action. Ethan gets better traction than Fotis, but Fotis Issiglu's in P2 is going to be able to keep much better eye on him with the slipstream now. Fotis isn't going for anything stupid, but he needs to watch himself and Antonio Costa. Timo Reiter has dropped back 3.5 seconds on the next car ahead of him, taking things slow. Andy Darnell has overtaken Hiri Kurtachville during the start. GT3 has beginning their heat now. Arthur Gras going into the inside. Has to think about it, but does not pursue it. Kulas is having a bit of an accident going into the first chicane. It's side by side going into the second chicane. The Bentleys are following them. Arthur Gras on the inside. But David Koulas, he doesn't make it happen. Backside of it, Dirk Pfeiffer in P3 is getting attacked by his Bentley, his other Bentley, Mike Bartman behind him. They are racing. This is going to be very close between Arthur Gras and David Koulas. And Fotis has had a bit of an accident up front. 2.5 seconds of a gap he has now between him and Rotron. Ethan's going away pretty well, I'd say. Antonio Costa's had a bit of an accident as well. He's in P4. Timo Reiter's back in P3s. Antonio Costa is 19 seconds back. For me, at least. Meanwhile, Andy Darnell in LMP2 is leading his class ahead of Huey Kurtachville and Andy Foster. Mike Hockert is getting the better of Letteris and Tan. And that was a car off. I didn't quite catch who that was, but that was I was talking. I'll stop waffling. Mike Bartman and Dirk Pfeiffer are working together on the Bentley. They're both drafting each other. They know they have to work together to have a chance at getting a 1-2 or 2-3. Very good friends, those two. Running the same livery and car and everything. It's a Ferrari in the back. Cavagno is having a little bit of a battle with Anthony Ferrante in the AMG. Arthur Gras in second place chasing down David Koulas. AMG GT3 versus BMW M6 with two Bentleys trailing. They're side by side. Koulas was on the inside line, but he gets overtaken by Arthur Gras. He leads GT3. Just as well they're not tripping over any longer. David Koulas is having a bit of a moment going over the grass. The cars behind him driving through clouds at the minute. David Koulas is having a bit of a meltdown. He needs to keep it on the black stuff. He's still in second place. There's two Bentleys chasing him down. Dirk Pfeiffer has a look at it, but he doesn't make the move. He keeps his sense. Mike Bartman behind. Goes slightly wide. It has happened. Arthur Gras in P1 has overtaken David Koulas for P1. Dirk Pfeiffer on the inside line. He's gotten past David Koulas too. Dirk Pfeiffer's gone straight. I have no idea what happened there. It's a little bit glitched out for me. But that cost him. He's now back in P4, and the Bentley in front of him spins. It's his compatriot, Mark Bartman. What did I tell you? These mistakes creep in, and they cost you. Huey Kurtachville versus Andy Darnell, and the two Chevrolet DPIs. Less than half a second separate those two. They'll be jockeying for the lead now. Dave Ziska is on the outside line of Vic Vega. They are racing. Dave Ziska tries to get the move done, is squeezed. Rayo's on the inside. And Dave Ziska in the BMW gets ahead. Mike Bartman is ahead of Dave Ziska, and then it's Koulas and Gras fighting it out for the lead of GT3. Meanwhile in LMP2, Huey Kurtachville is on the back of Andy Darnell, getting closer than they were before. the 7, and the M6 of Dave Ziska and Rayo Racing, I believe. Yes, Rayo Racing, the two of them are off. They've taken each other out into the back stretch. They're going to have to put up with that damage for an hour and 10 minutes now. It's important to keep your car clean. Too wide, it's LMP2. Huey Crotachville versus Andy Darnell, and that is versus Isiglu again. He spun for a second time. His gap increased to almost 10 seconds up on Ethan Mottram on the lead lap. Andy's on the inside line, Huey's on the outside. As a look at it, drops back, thinking of a switch back. Under braking, and she makes it happen. Going into the chicane. Andy's behind though, but the move has happened. No, it hasn't. Huey's Crotachville's driving back a little bit and see what happened. They must have collided. Huey's had an accident. Andy has gotten away. Kulas and Arthur Graw are still at it, by the looks of things, for the lead of GT3, the 14 AMG versus the M6, as that was Andy Foster in LMP2. He's spun on the front stretch, just beware. Ethan Mottram starts to go on his first traffic, and then that's Fotis Isiglu and a GT3 off in the distance. Fotis is now in P4. Antonio Costa is in P2. Timo Reiter still remains in 3rd. Justin Winterberg and Fotis Isiglu, they have had an accident and now they have costed. David Kulas versus Arthur Graw. It's Ethan Mottram encountering his first traffic of the day. Kulas is side by side with Arthur Graw. Kulas is on the inside line, drops back, he doesn't have enough speed to carry. It's a bad spot for a move anyway. Drops back a small bit. He'll be making it back soon. Dirk Pfeiffer is in P3 right now in the Bentley. Left racing time in the GTE is trailing him. They are racing for position at the minute. Side by side in the background. Left Santana in the inside line. That should be a done deal for Left Santana. That's not. On the inside line is Dirk Pfeiffer still fighting for it. Very good effort. Although I don't see how much good this will bring him. He's only tripping over another car. He's slowing each other down. But a very flashy move though. David Kulas is on the back of Arthur Graw. It's going to be a slipstream move. Looks like a bit of a bump draft they have going now. Arthur Graw remains on his left, and David Kulas backside of any move he was thinking about. He's got a little bit less traction than Arthur Graw there, going out of the first chicane, turn 1. This has not been Fotis Isiglu's race so far. He has spun on his own accord, and maybe, according to other drivers, Justin Winterberg has had a little bit of an incident. He's getting a drive-through for misconduct. Lefteris in 10 finally gets the better of Dirk Pfeiffer in the GTE versus GT3 fight. excuse my airplane engine of a PC. David Koulas is starting to, just a little bit of a gap starting to form between him and Arthur Grant. It's going to be 4 tenths now, following each other through the last bend. It's going to close off a little bit thanks to slipstream. And that's Ferrante coming out of the pits to fix damage. He's rejoining the track ahead of Lefterer Santan. He's probably a lap down. He is a lap down on the rest of the competition, trying to fix damage. Ahead of Justin Winterberg as well. Fotis Isagru is racing. Timo Reiter for 3rd position. He's tigering his way back up. He refuses his race to end like this, especially with 1 hour and 5 minutes to go. Antonio Costa has had a bit of a moment up ahead. Might be 2 birds with 1 stone for Fotis Isagru. And indeed it was. Incredible. Very unfortunate for Antonio Costa. He's had a bit of a moment and it's cost him 2 positions. But Fotis is back in I was going to say the fight for P1, but 35 seconds. It doesn't matter. He's in P2. Be happy. Go racing, boys. David Koulas is still chasing Arthur Grau. Grau is getting the best of him, as it seems. Appears to have a lot more consistency than David Koulas. The M6, despite being an older car, an older spec than the AMG, is still faster in the hands of Arthur Grau. The M6 is a 6-year-old car. Well, that AMG is a 2020 spec. So driver talent really is a predominant force, and what lap times can be achieved with the GT3 machinery. Traffic for Fotis Isagru going on down the inside of David Koulas. Tripping over each other, David Koulas versus Fotis Isagru. Antonio Costa is trying to chase down Lefterer Santan. He's trying to follow Fotis and Timo. Makes the cast without any issue. 35 seconds has increases to 37.7. That's going to be a matter of whether they can keep it together during the stops. If Fotis wants to get back into this race, it's going to need an undercut. Just the question is, has he planned that far ahead? It's Antonio Costa versus Timo Reiter, and Reiter's binned it. Gone. Timo Reiter in the barrier. And that is at least 7 seconds up from Antonio Costa, the next car ahead. He remains in P4 at the back. The LMP1 machines overtake David Koulas and Arthur Grau. Grau is still in front of Koulas. The gap is under 2 tenths. Getting very close. All it takes is one mistake at this distance. Koulas is getting a small bit of a buffer and traction. He loses a lot of time in that turn 1 chicane. Lots of drivers here are losing a lot of time in turn 1. I still haven't figured it out myself, to be honest. It can make or break a lap, no matter how good the other sectors are. And that's Lefterer. Oh, that got collected. The GT3 went into him, I think. It's not too Well, he goes for the lead, but still. Barrow has left her some time. And he has been utterly left in the dust by Mike Hockert in the other GTE Porsche. Meanwhile in LMP2, Thierry Potoccheville is maintaining a 1.7 second gap from Andy Darnell in first and second position. Andy Darnell is in first and Thierry in second, to clarify. Antonio Costa is 3.5 seconds off of Fotis Issiglu, but the gap is increasing spectacularly. This gap went from 3.5 to 4 in the space of a few corners. So Dave Ziska is chasing Camagno for P16 overall. Dave Ziska is still chasing Camagno. Less than 2 tenths separate them. Might be having a look. They're close enough for a slipstream move on the front stretch. On the inside line, the brand shining new M4 of Dave Ziska overtakes on the inside line. GC Camagno loses the position to the M4. Ferrari gets a little bit of traction. It's going to be getting the slipstream going into the next corner. It's going to stay close. Lefteris in 10 is on the green. Lefteris is having a bit of a bad race, to be honest. Antonio Costa is coming right back to Fotis Issiglu in the lead. Actually, Ethan Mottram is in the pits. He is making his pit stop now. He's the first in his class to pit. The Mistros will be able to stay out a little bit longer. But as Fotis Issiglu and Antonio Costa half a second apart, they're fighting for the lead right now. Two Mistros with a dream. Look at them go. Antonio Costa, the fresh face in the hypercar. And then there's another LMP1 who's been there for all the races so far. This is a very good championship points lead. Rivaled only by Ethan Mottram. Mike Hockert overtakes Timo Reiter. Timo might have a little bit of damage because that is not normal for a prototype to be overtaken by a GTE like that. Antonio's had a little bit of a bad sector 1. That turn 1 wasn't ideal for Antonio Costa. Ethan Mottram is back in the game. He's on the hard compound tyres. He's had his outlap and he's getting his tyres up to heat. Fotis Issiglu and Antonio Costa have been running softs. That is not the way to go. They wear far too quickly. Like it, actually, am I wrong? There's no surprise that's why Ethan's been getting so much time. They've been running the wrong tyre. That is utterly hopeless. Antonio Costa is 3/10 away. Oh, that's a gap. That's a big gap forming now. Antonio might be pitting now. Having a look at the delta. But he has lost a bit of time. He must have spun. He's losing time by the second. It's going to be very easy for Ethan to catch up with him. Timo Reiter has pitted, although he is one lap down. He unlaps himself actually. Both the Turner prototypes have now entered the pit lane side by side. Who's going to have the quicker service? Andy Darnell was on the medium, Heary was on the medium. It's a big question of what tyres they'll be running now. They are in the pits now, and Ethan Mottram overtakes Antonio Costa with relative ease. Antonio is now in third. Antonio is actually pitted, And Andy Foster has had a mistake. He's off in the second sector. Ethan now is chasing Fotis Isoglu, who has yet to pit and is on soft tyres. He's a sitting duck. I hate to say it, but I am almost positive that Ethan... He's making up seconds at a time on Fotis Isoglu. Fotis is in the pits now. He's been overtaken by Ethan Mottram. He was on two soft tyres and pitted too late. Heary, Catachville and Andy Darnell are back on the track. Heary has opted for the hard compound and Andy Darnell has opted for the medium. So that was probably come with the assumption that Heary doesn't plan to stop for another tyre change this race, while Andy Darnell plans to overtake Heary Courtageville and build a gap using the mediums, or depending on how long those mediums last. He might keep him, I don't know. I've driven P2. I've driven P1, so I know somewhat what I'm talking about, but not there. Anyway, Fotis is rejoining the track now. He's 5 seconds actually off of Antonio Costa for P2. Timo in P3. Timo P4 is 57 seconds back. In P6 overall, he must have had a big accident. So Antonio Costa is losing time to Fotis Isoglu by the 10th every corner. This is incredible. Here Crotachville is actually starting to build a gap to Andy Darnell, despite being in a harder tyre compound. That's a hustle if I've ever seen one. Here's a duo we haven't seen in a while, and they're still at it. David Koulas versus Arthur Grau. They are still they have not been outside of a second of each other for the entire race distance. I bet money on that. I haven't been monitoring them all the time, but they are still with each other. They're like a magnets on the two cars, and they won't separate. "50 minutes left on the clock, and your positions in P1 are Ethan Lutram leading the race for 25 seconds back as Antonio Costa in P2, Fotis Isably P3. Thierry Crotachville has lost the lead during the race start, but has managed to retake it during the pit stops over Andy Darnell. Timo Reiter has dropped back to a measly P6, but he's fighting his way back as we speak. Arthur Grau is within half a second, is fighting with the David Koulas as we speak. He may or may not be on your screen. 2 tenths separate them, and they haven't been over a second of each other for the entire race distance so far. Dirk Pfeiffer in third position in the Bentley is 11 seconds back. So he's had a little bit of an excursion then. Actually, in particular, his teammate Mike Bartman in the other Bentley has had a small bit of an accident earlier this race, and he retired from the race with mechanical issues. Anthony Ferrante did just the same, but I don't know if that was from incident points or whatever, because that wasn't very professional driving standard to it. Timo Reiter is slowly but surely making his way back up from the field, and that's Justin Winterberg in P19. That's the back of the grid now. He's 42 seconds off the next car and 3 laps down in a slightly crumpled Ferrari. Koulas is pitted. All the GTR3s are starting to pit. Dirk Pfeiffer is let back out. Actually, that was a lie. What was it? That was a lie. Koulas didn't pit that moment. I tricked you. David Koulas is still... But he's behind Dave Ziska. Ziska managed to make his way up the field. He hasn't pitted yet, I don't think. Neither has Arthur Grau. I'd love to remind you of some of the driving conditions of these drivers. Under normal circumstances, driving an hour and a half is no easy feat at all. But when you take into consideration the summer heat of some of these drivers, especially even in places such as Great Britain, you have to take into consideration the heat that these drivers are driving, and not all of them have air conditioning in the room their sim is in. And it gets much worse in other countries So should have brought their team for because they must be absolutely cooking in there while driving on the sim. I'm sure it must be very hard to concentrate, but these people are making do. Andy has dropped back almost 2 seconds, over 2 seconds now over here at Crutchfield. That last excursion over the curb has cost him a little bit. Antonio Costa is 45 seconds back on Ethan Mottram. Ethan is leading comfortably. The leader is on lap 20. And Dave Ziska disappears into the midfield as he pits. That's Andy Darnell, I believe. He's slid off to the side of the track. He needs to get back on as quick as he can. In that last stunt, he got overtaken by Timo Reiter. He's going to have to get back past that faster class hypercar. Maybe use him for slipstream, actually. Maybe an aid, building up the time loss to Hiri Kratochville. Royal Racing is back on the tail of Dave Ziska. They've had an excursion towards the start of the race. And if these endurance races have taught me anything, it's that history can indeed repeat itself. So they can keep it clean. They're very close. Under 3/10. That's Ethan Mottram back there in the Audi. Royal Racing is starting to drop back a little bit. They each take to the left while Ethan Mottram overtakes. Royal Racing takes a slightly wider line. Then Dave Ziska, and it does not pay off, he's losing time. But he might be able to salvage something out of his slipstream. He's gunging his way. 6/10 to 5/10 to 4/10. Under braking. And turn 1 is not a friendly turn for Royal Racing. He's just lost all that time he just gained. "42 minutes to go, and we're still seeing some action in GT3. Kulas and Arthur Graw are still at it. In fact, Kulas has dropped back to 33 seconds, 0.7, because Arthur Graw is the last car that has not yet made a pit stop. He's going for the overcut, as it looks like. But on those one hard tyres, I can't imagine what kind of advantage he'd be getting from it. He's only hurting himself staying out this long. But he has built out a really beautiful lead over David Kulas. But keep in mind, Kulas behind is pitted, and so is Dirk Pfeiffer. 7 seconds back from David Kulas in the Bentley. So as soon as Arthur Graw pits, it's going to be a question as whether he'll be able to keep his position, or whether he'll be staying relatively close to the pack at the front. I think this is the first time that David Koulas has managed to retain his fast pace for this long and without spinning. He has a very bad tendency of doing very well in qualifying and then falling off very large as the fatigue starts to creep in. There's no such thing has happened yet with 40 minutes to go. It would be around lap 21 for lap 21 for Arthur Grau, and he still has not made a pit stop. He must be running some kind of different strategy. Like there must be some kind of engine mode he's got. That's the 7. That's Dave Ziska in the BMW M4. He's round P16. Gets back on the track. But you can see the cars behind him. It's Arthur Grau about to lap him, and then his Camano further back in the background. Down 4 is smashed up beyond recognition. Ethan Mottram has built a comfortable lead over Antonio Costa. Never checked up to see what kind of tyres that Antonio and Fotis were running. Antonio has switched to mediums and Fotis has gone to softs again. That won't work out very well for him. It won't last very long at all. That's the very wrong way to go. Last year Santan has he's fixed his aero while he was there in the pits. Mike Hockert has gone very far ahead of him and he's lost any hope of ever retaking the lead. So he decided to repair his car fully and just enjoy the last 38 minutes he's got left and come home with the points he's got. You can see Fotis Sissiglu in the distance. We're trying to get into the range of Antonio Costa. He's around 2.5 seconds back. And that's a spinner. That was Lino Berger, I believe. Or one of the BMWs. They're in the wall in the third sector. I didn't quite catch the livery number. Not that I'd know them anyway. Fotis is cleaving through traffic. That used to be 35 seconds. It used to be 28, 27, 26 seconds. He must be in the pits. Ethan Mottram is pitted again. Or has had an accident. One of the two. Ethan is exiting the pits now. Getting a small top up on fuel, and Antonio Costa takes the lead. So Ethan Mottram on the hard tyre now has to get past Fotis Sissiglu and Antonio Costa. But Ethan's got a trump card. He's got a full tank, or he's not relative. Well, he must have gone for fuel because he's still on those hard compounds, and he didn't spend that much time at all, so he didn't fix damage either. But now that's a bit of a challenge that Ethan hasn't had yet in this race. He's going to have to overtake Fotis Sissiglu and Antonio Costa fair and square. But Fotis and Antonio will have to stop for fuel eventually. It's about that time again for the LMP1s. I'd imagine that Fotis and Antonio Costa will want to stretch out their Mistral stints as far as they can. Fotis is flashing his headlights as the 99 Row Racing BMW becomes traffic for him. He knows that any inconvenience, anything that slows him down brings Ethan closer. Ethan's using here Crotachville for slipstream. They're side by side going into turn 1. Fotis isn't getting on very well with that turn 1 chicane road. He overtakes Pierre Crotachville with relative ease and now sets his sights on Fotis Isoglu. And once he finishes Fotis Isoglu, he's going to have to go after Antonio Costa. But Antonio has pitted twice. Fotis Isoglu is the only one who has not pitted, and Antonio might have had an accident. Fotis Isoglu's in the lead and Antonio's dropped back. He must have had an off-track excursion. I doubt he'll be able to follow him through that corner with Fontaine in the way. He's not off the optimal racing line, he's going to lose time now. Fontaine's in the gravel. Antonio Costa doesn't have the straight line speed he needs, or the corner exit traction he needs to get back in the fight with Ethan Mottram. And just like that, he's gone. He's looking at Fotis Isoglu now for the race lead for P1 category. 33 minutes to go. Arthur Gras still hasn't pitted. I don't think. According to my UI, it says he hasn't made a pit stop yet. He's pit stopped once. And so is Kulas. Never mind. I'm stupid. A little bit of buzz in the Discord now. Something about a collision. Probably a very unhappy driver. So apparently one of the GT3s got rear-ended by a faster class car. And then his race got ruined. In Discord, his name is JJ2009. But I don't know which GT3 that DNF was. It's not Mike Martin. It's not Mike Bartman because we know him. He's on the Discord as Mike. Actually, I'll shut up now because Ethan's on the tail of Fotis Isoglu. Fotis' soft tires are not working out for him. He's lost grip compared to Ethan Mottram's hard tire strategy. And that's Timo Reiter on the gravel. Timo has DNF'd from the race. He was on 100% damage ever since the start. Ethan's in the grass. He's losing a lot of time to Fotis now. Under a second turns into 4 seconds of a gap between Fotis and Ethan. He's going to have to work. And that gap over again, he's going up again. Antonio Costa's on the outside. They're tripping over each other, going into the second sector. This is a dream scenario for Fotis Isoglu now. Ethan Mottram and Antonio Costa are now tripping over each other, and now he's going It's the prime time for him to get away. Ethan's dropped back to third now. He's looking on down the inside of Antonio Costa and gets to move down with relative ease. But the Mistral follows him onto the start finish straight. He's weaving to try and break the toe. But Antonio's going to try and make it work. Left, right, left, right. Down to the 100, but down the inside. Antonio Costa now gets the move done. Incredible stuff. He once again takes second place from Ethan Matron. Matron must be seething right now. The defense of a lifetime from Antonio Costa. And Ethan's gone off track and he's gained a few seconds actually, cutting that chicane. That will be very forgotten. I think for the last half an hour, I don't know what that gap was before, but it was certainly cut down by a few seconds by cutting that chicane. And the M4, the Dave Ziska, has once again gone off. Ethan Matron lets Antonio Costa pass because he must have gotten a time penalty for cutting the track, and he's back to where he started at that last lap. Antonio Costa is, because of Antonio Costa, he's been, Fotis Isaglu and Ethan Matron now have a 7-second gap. The Fotis needs to pit soon, because those soft tyres are going to be falling off the runs at this rate. 28 minutes to go in lap 30. Fotis Isaglu is leading after a series of mistakes caused from Ethan Matron. You've had a small bit of a defensive masterclass from Antonio Costa in the LMP1 category. But he dropped back because he didn't have the pace to keep up with Ethan Matron in his Audi R18. Seven seconds has increased to 8. But Ethan is beginning to cut down that gap. 8 to 7.5 to 7.2 to 7 seconds. He must be slowing down for something. He certainly so. He must have hit someone, or is making a pit stop maybe. Yes, that's in the pits. Fotis Isaglu's made a pit stop, and then Ethan Matron is really taking the lead. Ethan's back in first position, but he needs to keep it clean for the rest of the stint, or else Fotis and Antonio will catch back up. And it's not quite easy as much I would have thought to re-overtake those cars for the lead. So this brief, unexpected resistance from the Audi, getting a bit sideways there, trying to overtake the LMP2 traffic of Andy Foster. Ethan is desperate to get that gap back up now. Ethan Matron and Fotis Isaglu are both very different pit stop cycles. It's like when they're not pitting at the same time anymore. Andy Darnell makes his stop following in Henry Crutchville. Versus Sissoko finally starts to exit the pits. Versus has been caught speeding in the pit lane. Nightmare for Versus Sissoko. David Koulas has spun. Koulas is out. Not out, but he's down. Not sure how long Arthur Grell's been away from the fray, but he's made another pit stop, and David Koulas was about to follow him in when he's now in sudden need of a nose job for his Mercedes. The mistakes are starting to creep in for everybody. Arthur Grell is making second after second. When David Koulas is in the pits. Versus Isaglu is after. I have no idea why that pit stop took so long, and they're racing out of the pits. Arthur Grell versus David Koulas. Koulas is in a smashed up AMG, but he blitzed past Arthur Grell within the first chicane. One of those headlights aren't working anymore on the AMG. But Koulas isn't giving up, he wants to give it a go. Arthur Grell overtakes on the inside of the braking zone, into the second chicane, going into the second sector. I can imagine the suspension could be a little bit damaged there. It'll limit him. Or limit David Koulas. And that's all she wrote for now. This is starting to get to the last 20 minutes, where the race is starting to stagnate. So with that very rushed plastic surgery on David Koulas's front bonnet, that's losing him a lot of time. And Arthur Grell is flying away in his M6. In P1, Ethan Mottram has had a few hiccups, but it's not enough to cost him a dominant win if he keeps everything the way he's going. Hey, I didn't realise Dirk Pfeiffer's in the lead. No, Arthur Grell. Dirk Pfeiffer is yet to pit. Make a second pit stop for fuel. Dirk has yet to get into the pits, so that'll be interesting to see how that works out, because he's got a 31.5 second lead over Arthur Grell, and he could very, very well pit and still be in the lead. It'd be a very good time to pit now if I was Dirk Pfeiffer, to make sure I was out there racing, because it takes around 30 seconds for a pit stop of fuel and tyres. And I'd still, if I was to make that pit stop with that much of a gap, I'd still be out in front with all the shiny new fresh tyres and fresh fuel load to continue building my lead. That's the thinking if I was in Dirk Pfeiffer's position right now. There's 21 minutes to go. It's anyone's game for GTR3 at least. At least for GTR3. Ethan Mottram's ran away with it. He's almost built his 1 minute's worth of lead on Antonio Costa and Fred Zisoglu. Hugh Kurtachvili is 37.5 seconds ahead of Andy Darnell. Mike Hawkhurst is, And Tan's gone. Like basically, really the only action we've got going on here is GT3. And the stuff that might be going on after the stops, the last round of stops. So, almost an hour in now, and we've had a few DNFs. We've got 4. We've got Winterberg, the Ferrari DNF, Ferrante in the Mercedes DNF, Mike Bartman DNF in the Bentley, and Timo Reiter in the P1 Mistral DNF after an off-track excursion. But nobody has disconnected from an internet problem yet, which is something very unusual. There's always at least one. Excuse my airplane engine on my desk. So once these 20 minutes are over, I'll be looking into getting in, digging into some post-race interviews. So stick around for that, yeah. I'll try get, like Ethan Mottram doesn't have a mic, but I'll try again to type stuff and I'll dictate what he says. I want to see how it's like, because the way it's looking right now, he's almost got a minute's worth of lead over Antonio Costa, and clearly looks like he's going to win. So if things continue as they are now, then I'd be happy enough to see what his thoughts are of having his first proper win, not being revoked by stuff. But after that, I'll try to get a hold of Antonio Costa and get him to rate his experience on the LMP1 car, because it's not very popular, this LMP1. But it's a tough car for many to drive. You got the better of Timo Reiter earlier. And then Fotis Isoglu, I'll try to get onto him and see what he thinks about ask him what went so wrong for Fotis. And then anyone after that, then I'll probably try and get as many people as I can to leave their thoughts. Antonio Costa is trying to go for the undercut here, making his 3rd pit stop. 3rd and last pit stop of the day for Antonio Costa. The seconds are counting down, and it seems like Fotis Isoglu might overtake him. In fact, actually, I think Fotis Isoglu might have gotten the ultimate undercut, because he made his 3rd pit stop. I didn't even catch him. He made his 3rd pit stop like a while back. That's why he's over a minute back, because he's gone for the undercut. Might be too big of an undercut to make any sense now, but Ethan Mottram's going to have to stop once more within these 16 minutes left of running. And if Fotis can put in some quality laps, then he can make it probably. He's got 70 seconds to make up. Ethan Mottram makes a pit stop actually. He only stops for a small splash and dash for fuel. He's still on the same hards that he was earlier on. I wonder how those hard tires are holding up. Okay, yeah, he had me hoping for a late comeback, but photosystic lives on the softs, and those tires don't work. So soft tires don't work in endurance. They just don't. They fall apart off the rims after 10 laps. Yep, it's easy game for Ethan Marcham now, congrats. LMP2. So we got here Patrick in front of Andy Darnell. He's been making a steady lead on Andy Darnell. Mike Hockert is Electro Santana is 2 laps down in GTE. He's had a damaged car, I believe. But Mike Hockert, this is a very easy win for the GTE driver. Arthur Graw has finally started to pull away from David Koulas, who has had an accident. That's AMG if Koulas needs a nose job, but it's starting to. They're staying within 4 seconds. It's respectable, the amount of pace that he's getting out of the AMG. And Pfeiffer is silently sitting there in 3rd place, taking home good points in his Bentley. And P4 is Extreme Radical. P5 in class is Vic Vega. P6 in class, Dave Ziska, who's going in for a stop now actually. Andy Foster, P3 for LMP2. And that's most of the drivers who haven't DNF'd so far. So starting to start. Oh my god! That's an LMP2, that's Crotachville, and he's hit JC Canagno. That was a massive hit. Very, very big hit from Harry Crotachville. And here he's out! She's out! All it took was one mistake, one lapse in concentration, and all those hopes and dreams have been crushed. Camagno's in the gravel trap at the minute. He's up. Ferrari is barely inoperable, so right off. But he needs to keep going for 13 minutes if he wants to finish the race. We're starting to get a little bit of lapse in concentration from everyone else. We're starting to see BMWs lose their concentration, but everyone's heading into the barriers now. '99's round. Royal Racing is in the gravel trap in P12 overall. A solid midfield finish. Lost. Spins again, very unfortunate for Rayo. This will give drivers like Dave Ziska with the damage in he spun again as well. Dave Ziska spun to match the car in front, Rayo Racing. I was going to say that would have given David Ziska leeway to retake 12th place. Half these GT3 cars are missing their front bumper. To faceless husk of lights, Vic Vega is driving like a faceless M6 down into the start of 3rd sector. It's a testament on how durable these GT3 cars can be. Here Crotachville is an awesome, that's Leftra Santan. That's the GTE Porsche, and she's around in the gravel trap. He gets going again, he was down but not out. He just needs to He needs to go on walking pace at this rate. There's no other GTEs. There's no hope to retake the GTE lead from Mike Hockert, who's 5th overall compared to 15th overall 2 laps down. But if Left Racing Town finishes the race, they'll get the equivalent of a P2 finish in points, which will be a big aid for his championship efforts versus Henrik Andreasen, and keep him in contention at least against Mike Hockert. Andy Darnell's in the pits. A class win is basically fell into his lap. That was a lot of moments in one's moderation. There's another one. Dave Ziska. Again. He just lost position after position after position. That was one scrunched up and fourth I've ever seen him. Rhino Berger, one of the newer drivers here, is tracing down Dave Ziska. He's made a lot of mistakes thus far. It's time for Rhino Berger to capitalise. Looking at the 100 board in GT3, those ABS brakes work pretty well. Getting the car stopped in time for the chicane. It's one of the easiest cars to drive through that chicane. Despite the downforce of the P1 hypercar, it's an absolute dog to try to get turned in a low speed corner. So there's 8 and 20 seconds to go. Ethan Mottram's leading P1. Antonio Costa's in P3 and Curtis Isserville is in P2. Mike Hockert is leading GTE. Andy Darnell is leading P2. Arthur Grau is leading GTR3. Like, lots of the drivers have either dropped back or wrecked out of the race, which is so super surprising over the course of an hour and 20 minutes around, you say. Now, I wasn't racing today. I could have, but I didn't because of an injured foot, but this would have been a blast to have driven in. I can't be the only one thinking that. So have a look and see if you can join the Discord server. They're free to join as long as you've gotten the content on R3E. Maybe you can try your hand at the championship next month. Even before then, we've got other different kinds of championships. We do a lot of one-offs, a lot of fun, silly championships. For instance, this Wednesday, actually, 2 days' time, we've got a drift event going on. Dave Ziska's round again. Not sure what happened there, but Rhino Berger has capitalised and now he's tracing down. He wants to lap JC Camagno. So there's Antonio Costa flashing his headlights and getting past GC3 traffic. Ethan has been building his gap second by second. Just taking a sip of a drink, sorry. So, a little bit of info from Timo Reiter. No, not Timo Reiter. Here at Kotaczville. That monster collision we saw. Apparently that was the Ferrari driver's fault. He'd rejoined the track unsafely and collected here at Kotaczville as a result. He essentially weaved across the racetrack and took out the DPI partner of Andy Darnell, competing for the championship. There's going to be a penalty for that, I believe. No questions asked. Four minutes and a bit to go, and the racing is stagnated. I need to go for a bathroom break, so I'll be back to announce winners soon. I'll be right back. Minutes to go and 2 laps to go. At lap 45, Ethan Mottram has built an almost 50-second gap to the car behind and looks set for a dominant LMP1 win overall. Andy Darnell has had quite the race, but he will finish the race in P1 after a shunt had by here at Kotaczville being collected by a GT3 car. Mike Hockert had a very dominant race indeed, and then Arthur Graw has had a hard-fought victory against David Koulas and outlasted him and kept his car in pristine condition while David Koulas could not. Just waiting for the cars to come to the line. This will be the final lap of the race. For many cars, Extreme Radical in P10 wants to try challenge Vic Vega for P9. Vic Vega's has a faceless M6. They're side by side, going into the second chicane, but any move that was being planned has been he's backed out of. Ethan Martram he doesn't really need to overtake them because now he can just sit back. He's got a win on his lap. He's got a 50-second gap. He doesn't need to play anything very dodgy. And we can see him swerving with joy. Going into the third sector. Don't mess up now, Ethan. They're on the home stretch. He is swerving from side by side in happiness. Going down the Armco now. The last corner of the race on the last lap. He wins in Spa. He wins in Monza. Ethan Martram wins the Monza monthly endurance race with a 55-second gap. If that doesn't scream dominant, nothing does. Well done. And now the race is very close to finishing now. We have a few other cars to cross the line now. Antonio Costa is home in P2, followed by Francis Usiglu in P3 after a horrendous race, riddled with with off-track excursions and debauched pit stops. And terrible tyres, but we'll talk about that later. Andy Darnell has had a race win fall into his lap, and this is going to greatly increase his title chances going into the next round. Arthur Grab has successfully fended off David Koulas. He managed to keep his car in pristine condition and Koulas could not. And Pfeiffer comes home in a respectable P3. Quietly scoring some nice podium points for his team. Andy Foster comes in P2. LMP2 as he is one of the two LMP2 prototype cars that have finished the race. Huru did not finish. And finally, well done to Mike Hockhurst for beating Lefters in Tan in a GTE 1v1. Ethan Martram is your overall race winner with the best lap time during the race is a 1 minute 37.796. And the other prototype's best laps were 138s. Now things have gone different with certain tyre choices for Francis Usiglu. I can imagine that things could have gone very differently for the Greek. Kiri Kotachville just had a very bad stroke of luck, and Andy Darnell inherits the win from Hiri. And very good job from everyone else who finished the race. An hour and a half is no easy feat by any means. So I suppose that now it's time to get into the post-race interviews. So, Ethan, you don't have a mic, but if you'd like to do a bit of a post-race interview, then if you type what you want to say into the commentator chat, like the open chat function, he'll do it in DMs. So, Ethan, your first race win, not tainted by a stupid steward's decision. Your very first proper win, and the dominant one at that. How do you feel? You worked very hard for this one, lad. And Ethan is typing. So, in Ethan's words, I feel very happy. Zissiglo's strat was very loose. His strategy made me win, in his words. And with that, I have to agree. Those soft tires weren't exactly ideal. It's either mediums or go home, or hards. The hards worked very well for you, Ethan. Like, you had the ability to just... you had the ability to not worry about tires and just to do a splash of fuel, and that made your pit stops very quickly. Did you come up with that beforehand or on the fly? He is typing. He had 43% front tire wear at the end, and he had 67% on the rear. They could have easily went on for a lot more laps. In Ethan's words, most of my strats are made up on the fly, but this time I decided for mediums and hards for fastest lap. Yeah, that would be very good thinking, because you need the fastest lap points to overtake Fotis in the championship, especially after not finishing the first race at Portimao and closing the gap during the Spa incursion. So, you've had a very good race today, Ethan. Would you like to say anything else? Or add on to anything? Ethan is typing. Nope, that's all, in Ethan's words. Well, thank you very much, Ethan. So, everyone else who's after joining up in the commentator booth, I'll try to get to all of you. So, Arthur Gra, if you'd please unmute your mic. I'd love to talk about your GT3 race win and the race length. Hello, Arthur. So, you've had a very big battle between you and David Koulas. You managed to keep your cool and beat Koulas in the end.
Yeah, it took me a while. Came close the last two races, but this time finally everything came together. David was very fast, but yeah, also still at the end of the day we are teammates. I was a bit more aggressive. He stayed behind in the first stint, and from there on with strategy I just could make it work to the end and had the fresher tires for the last stint. So it was very nice, and yeah, very happy about that today.
Yeah. So about Koulas, he did during one of his pit stops, he got rid of a smashed front end on his Mercedes. Do you think that affected his performance? Do you think that was the main reason he dropped back in performance?
I have seen that he had quite lots of damages front after he re-entered the pits. So yeah, if it was during pit service, even worse for him. Yeah, of course, with Monza after long straights, you have a big disadvantage. So yeah, I can't tell how costly it was for him exactly, but probably it was part of the reason. I think we've seen often enough how fast he is, especially in qualifying. 3 out of 3 poles at GT3, so yeah, that's... don't have any illusions that today was lucky, but every day. Yeah, that's also 1-2 for the team finally after 3 front row lockouts. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, fantastic 1-2 finish for Inspired Yorkshire. Well done. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think you have quite some other people who are willing to speak to you. So yeah, call it a day, and thank you for streaming and for broadcasting everything. Yeah.
No worries. Pleasure's mine. Thank you so much for speaking, Arthur.
Have a nice
Have a good night. So, Andy, if you'd like to say anything yourself. Awkward silence.
I couldn't find the button. I found it.
Oh, nice one. So, I just wanted to ask you about your LMP2 stint. So, I hear you early on in the race. Here you was getting quite a gap. Did you ever give up?
Oh no. We were tight on fuel. He has got a bit of a reputation of running out of fuel towards the end, and it was going to be extremely tough. So I was fuel saving beyond belief, just to make sure I could make it to the end, and I was relying on him running out of fuel. But unfortunately, his accident, which meant I had a 3 pit stop, so I put some soft tyres on. But yeah, it was very, very tight on fuel.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like those V8 Chevrolet DPIs have like those V8s can guzzle fuel very quickly compared to the traditional LMP2 machine. I can imagine. I haven't driven those cars very much.
No, it's basically 0.1 laps left as we crossed the line, so it would have been definitely stuttering towards the end, so I was fuel saving somewhat. But no, he definitely had the pace on me anyway. He deserved the win this season. He had an unfortunate accident. I think I could have been faster, but obviously, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail, so second place would have been okay.
Very good points. Like, what was your initial reaction to having the win placed on your lap like that?
Oh, thank you very much, really. Yeah, no, it was a gift, but I'm not one to turn down gifts.
Alright. Well, you can take all you can get, eh?
Absolutely, why wouldn't you? Yeah, unfortunately, commiserations to Tiwi. Yeah, had a good race.
Alright, so is there anything else you'd like to mention to any of the folks at home?
No, just thank you very much for turning up.
Our race organiser, Andy Darnell, thank you very much for speaking.
My pleasure.
Alright, have a good one, Andy.
You too. Thanks for the commentary.
No worries. Thanks. So, next up, I'd love to talk to Mr. Is this a group? I can see he's waiting there with his mic music. You may unmute your mic, Fotis, if you'd like.
Hi, Michael.
Hello, Fotis. So, not the best race you could have hoped for this evening.
Yeah, I did a lot of mistakes, silly ones, unexpected.
Yeah, I can see.
I was murder one guy, a very silly mistake. I was going to overpass him from the right, and immediate thought came to my mind to look the times and the times gap, and I didn't realize the speed difference, and I ran him from behind. It was a terrible action by me.
I was going to ask you about your strategy, the soft tire.
Yeah, it worked for me because I was on a full tank, and while the tank was out of fuel, I had still 20% of tires. So it worked for me, but I did another silly mistake, unforgivable. I speed on the pit lane, so I get a drive-through penalty. And because of that, in the end, I needed 1 lap more for fuel. So I give the chance to Antonio to overpass me. It is, a lot of mistakes.
Right. that was do you reckon? So,
not the best race for me. Yeah, I'm really sorry about the guy that I hit him from behind. It was very bad. I feel also very bad for that.
I saw like someone was an endurance chat there. They're voicing their disgust. You might want to throw a little message there. Actually, is there anything else you'd like to mention to anyone else?
Yeah, I'm really sorry for the guy that I ruined his afternoon race. It was a terrible mistake by
I'm sure all things will be forgiven or accounted for in penalties. Either way, it will be forgotten next round. So.
Yeah, it is very bad though to ruin another driver's race like that. It was very stupid. I could see the time difference after I passed him. I don't know what I was thinking to do it before he passed him and eventually hit him.
All right. So yeah, Forza Suzuki, everybody. Your third in class podium finisher.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Forza, for speaking. I'll see you in the next one.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Good night for you.
Good night, Forza. And finally, I'd love to hear the touch real. The DPI got wrecked. I hear you. So there was a bit of an accident going to the end of the second sector involving a GT3. Tell us about that.
Well, I came out from the mode 2 and I knew there was Ferrari out of track, but suddenly he went to the middle and I panicked because I wanted to do right, but he was in the middle. I tried left and simply this caused the crash. And engine was literally out.
Yeah, engine automatically gone. Like a collision like that, like is a very hard collision, be over 200 kilometers an hour. So, I think that GT3 ended up continuing racing, I think.
But on Corvette, the engine is on the front, so simply if you crash into someone rear end, you are out immediately.
Yeah, that was the case with a few of the front engine GT3s. There was a whole bunch of Mercedes cars were out. Just like a few.
Well, I slowed down because the GT3 was in front of me, but it wasn't simply a crash mode. I think the Ferrari with our head suspension gone and probably repaired it, I think, because on the stream when I saw the back, he was literally struggling to keep the car on the track.
Yeah, he was having a bit of a moment there. He wasn't checking his mirrors. That was just an unsafe rejoin that would be penalised for the GT3 driver. He did absolutely nothing wrong here. It's an absolute shame that you had your win taken away from you like that.
Well, I was driving absolutely on the limit, which I spun twice. One when I was behind Andy. I drove over grass and simply after that the tires had no grip, and when I pressed throttle on my controller, simply even on second gear it spun immediately into the wall.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Like very little fine control on a gamepad or a controller. Okay, I couldn't go back to a gamepad now if I wanted to for racing. Like, I've forgotten how to drive properly with it. I've high-nerfed the gamepad. Do you reckon you would have had the pace to win today if that GT3 didn't do its thing? Do you think you would have made it to the end? Because according to Andy, you two were fuel saving.
Well, I was pushing it literally because I knew I made it right into the end, even without full saving, because every box I had full fuel tank.
Oh, yeah,
After
of
everything.
course.
Wait, I'm gonna check my tab I have Twitter because I have some applications that shows that literally.
Alright.
Well, I started on the mediums, what you saw, but I accidentally put me hards for the second stint.
Yeah, like the hard tire wasn't very it wasn't a very good move. But like, despite that, you were gapping Andy down now. Like, Andy was fuel saving at that point, so you're still like had more than 30 seconds of a gap on Andy. So
Well,
it wasn't really
if I'm seeing right, I was more than 1 second faster per lap than Andy. 1 second per lap on average.
yeah, it's huge.
Well, most of the time I gained in Lesmos because I had same speed as Andy on the straights, but I was much faster in the windy section with the slower ones, like that need more aerodynamics, like Lesmos and Variante Ascari.
I see.
These are the places I gain most of the time.
Yeah, I see. Like, you two have different places you're faster in, and that makes sense.
Well, that's called probably by setup. Because I didn't have default setup. I literally changed few things, so simply, and it made me faster.
Yeah, certainly. Like, you're flying out there.
And in SimRacing overall, Monza is one of my favorite racetracks in the SimRacing in general.
Yeah, same with me. Like, I'm not very fast at, I am relatively fast at Spa, but it's not Monza, but it's not one of my best tracks, but I really enjoy Monza. It's a shame I couldn't be here, but I did hurt my foot, so I was out. Ended up commentating instead, so here I am. So, Harry, is there anything else you'd like to mention to the crowd before we shut off?
Well, I have nothing to say.
Alright, that's okay. Alright, so Harry, have a good night.
You too.
Alright, so I believe that's all. That's a wrap. Next time we're gonna have, like 2 days time, we're gonna have a drift event, which is gonna be a very entertaining to watch. Like, you'll want to tune in for that. It's not gonna be quite as long as this, but it'll be something relatively bite-sized. But I would imagine you'd get a kick out of it, nonetheless. So we'll hope to see you there next time. So, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to the stream, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you, everybody. This has been Michael Chute.